We'll get started real soon. I'm almost done here. All right. Let me pull this up here. All right. Let's see how we're doing here. We got 0 concurrent. No, we got 3 concurrent viewers. How you guys doing? God bless you all. It's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful, wonderful day. Got my, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to do this. Let me add this guy. Let me real quick add this guy. How do I, okay. We're going to add image. We're going to add existing, and we're going to add the frap. Add the big old frap. So tonight's gonna be kind of chill. It's gonna get a little intense, maybe depends on how upset I get at certain things. But tonight's gonna be pretty chill. I'm here. I'm chilling with my chocolate milk. I don't actually have a Starbucks frap on me, but it's like the closest thing to represent what I'm actually drinking. I got my chocolate milk here. You know what? I can show you actually. I took a picture earlier. I'm gonna show you guys. Check this out. Oh, that is ginormous. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Goodness me. It is this thing. Hey, Judith. So this is what I've got. It is, in essence, it is I don't even know what you call it. It's a clay mug, custom made. There is only one of these in the world with this design. And we're here vibing with the one-of-a-kind custom mug made, I can't, made by the Shallow Water Potter. And the mug is incredible. It's got, I'm not sponsored, by the way. It's just, I really, really love the mug, okay? They took time out of their busy schedule to make it for me, and it's so beautiful, and I love it. And it's got this really cool custom luce design. In the back you can't really see because, you know, I only have a picture from one side, but the other side is it's got like the you know, the sort of Vatican flag symbol, right? Like the keys and like the papal tiara and all that stuff. So it's really cool. And I'm drinking chalky milk from it. You can hear my spoon clanking against it. Okay. So there's that. The reason I'm not taking caffeine is twofold. One, I didn't grab it in time to make it to the stream. I already started the stream like 2 minutes late. Sorry, 10 minutes late. But the second reason is because I just ate spaghetti, and also I want to go to bed on time. So that's gonna be difficult to do if I drink coffee. So, we have a pope. Oh my goodness, we have a pope. Okay. Full disclosure, right? So in 2 days, you're gonna see that I'm gonna release a video, and it's going to be talking about Pope Francis and his legacy, and just, you know, certain things that we can learn from him over the course of his 12-year papacy. And I really loved Pope Francis. He really was a father figure to me. And so when he passed, I'll be honest, I'm still not quite over it. However, I'm really really excited to welcome Pope Leo the 14th. We have a pope. Habemus papam. It was a terrible time, being an orphan, basically. The Sedevacante period, the interregnum, terrible, terrible. Um, yeah, we got a pope. We got a pope. It's awesome. I'm so excited. I was at work and I was like dealing with this customer. He wouldn't leave me alone. He was there for like an hour, and I was like taking his order. He would come back and change it, come back and change it. It's like I could never get anything done with him. And I have the stream from Vatican News. I have the stream up, and just to keep an eye on it, like on the desk monitor, on the computer monitor at work. And I get out of the office to go search for the guy, and as I'm leaving, I notice out of the corner of my eye we got smoke, but it looks kind of like gray-ish, and that might be because of like the angle that I was looking at the TV from. He was born on the feast day of the exaltation of the cross. Well, that's nothing but good news. And so I'm looking at the smoke and I'm like, okay, that looks kind of grayish. Oh man, it's black again. Wait, no, it really does look gray. Hold on. It's looking lighter. We have a pope. We have a pope. Habemus Papa, we have a pope. I was freaking out. So I wanted to get rid of that customer so that I could go enjoy this. I could go on my lunch break and enjoy this. And it turns out I had to deal with him for like 15 more minutes, but it did not interrupt me from witnessing Pope Leo the 14th. That feels so weird to say. Step out onto that balcony and greet his people. It's wonderful. That's a moment I don't think I'll ever forget. It was incredible. So I'm glad to have you guys here with me. Why are we doing this stream? Well, for one, to celebrate. Let me get rid of the loot chain bug. Maybe make it tiny if you really want to keep looking at it. A little bigger so you can see the loot chain. There we go. That's about it. I'm not making it any bigger. So why are we doing this stream? Well, because you know how things go on the internet. Nobody can be happy for too long. And I, as a certified popesplainer, I will show you my credentials later. You're flying across the world. Oh, dude, same. I like when I went on lunch break, I grabbed my food and I shoved it in the microwave and I just started running to like put the footage up in the office. Oh my goodness. I think this conversation here is like emblematic of how the day was, just chaotic back and forth, shifting focus because you want to catch everything. So what are we doing? Well, for one, Pope Leo wasn't really a well-known papal candidate. He was considered papal, but nobody was paying attention to him. To okay, it's a great shame. It's a great shame that some people decide that they're going to bet money on papal candidates. It's really really saddening, and it's incredibly cynical. Like that sort of thing used to be punishable by excommunication. I argue maybe we should bring that back. However, we need to understand that the church has enemies. Some of those enemies, as we're told about in the writings of St. Paul, our principal enemies are demons. They're beyond this world. They're not human beings, right? However much a human being can be considered your enemy, demons are like 5 times that, 10 times that. Maybe there's an infinite gap, but it's a little more deeply theological than I'd like to get into. In any case, when the Pope got elected, demons got mad, and the people that demons influence get mad. And so what that means is that a lot of people started saying a lot of really nasty things about the Pope right off the bat. Everybody started digging up dirt about him. It was just, oh my goodness, it was really terrible. Because like you've got, Habemus Papam, we got a Pope Leo. Oh, that's an awesome name because like it's indicative of like where he wants to go with this papacy. Oh, and he's like decked out in all the drip. Oh, the drip. Awesome. However, it seems like people immediately took a turn and started looking into his positions, and it turns out he's not really a super outspoken cardinal, or wasn't a super outspoken cardinal. He was outspoken where he felt it was necessary, but generally speaking, he wasn't like this sort of reactionary. Like, I'm not. This is not to detract from any cardinals that you guys might respect and honor. Certainly I wouldn't want to calumniate any of the princes of the church, but there are some cardinals, some bishops that are a lot more reactionary than others. And by reactionary, I suppose what I really mean is that they are way more prone to comment on whatever. Just comment on the latest thing that the Pope said, the latest document that came out, and it has to be as soon as possible. Basically, like cardinals that, whether they intend to or not, feed the news cycle. And this current Pope doesn't seem to have been one of those. And that's a great thing. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this Pope, precisely because he's such a low profile person. If this was Sarah, then I could talk to you about Sarah. It'd be mostly negative things from my experience, but I'm sure that I'm in the vast minority. But no, if I wanted to talk about Cardinal Dolan, I could tell you about how praying the Rosary with him on Hallow was a great experience, right? If it was Cardinal Fernandez, I would be laughing at the face of Taylor Marshall, because it's really, really funny, the idea of having a two-trope papacy. But no. Unfortunately, it's somebody that I don't know. But however, it's not entirely unfortunate, because it means that I get to learn about him alongside you guys. So take everything with a grain of salt, especially the negative parts, which we will address in detail later. However, I am going to have to read from Wikipedia. It's like the best place to get information about him. It's the most up to date. So I think it's this one. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. So first, I want you to see this thing over here. These are my credentials. You're asking me, what do you? Who are you to start talking about this stuff? I am part of the Order of Popesplainers. Okay, it's right there. I was signed on by Pope Francis. All right, that's enough of that. Get that. There we go. Back. Okay, so Pope Leo the 14th. That it still feels incredible to say. Like I'm gonna say it off like how I feel. I look at this. I'm gonna say it with maybe some less than proper terminology, but part of me, because it's day one and I've grown up with Francis, part of me looks at this guy and it's like, that's the Pope. That's a filler Pope. But that's because he looks the part of the Pope. Like, it's actually a good thing. It's like I'm not bashing the Pope. In any case, so yeah, like I wanted to pull up like his life and just to sort of, I don't know, just really really get into like talking about him, because he's such a perplexing figure, because we know nothing about him. Like Benedict the 16th was before his election, he was prefect of the CDF, of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, under John Paul II, which is like basically the Roman Inquisition, right? And like that's a big position, and so he was kind of a shoo-in. However, Pope Francis was sort of like, oh hey remix, Pope Francis was sort of like a dark horse candidate. Like he was maybe named, kind of like how Cardinal Prevost was. But so Cardinal Bergoglio at the time was maybe named, but he wasn't really like considered like a serious contender. And I would say much the same applies here to former Cardinal Prevost, now Pope Leo the 14th. Okay, I just want to read through like his life story and just sort of go through it and learn about him, right? I will mention I did like sort of pre-read this. I sort of skimmed it just to make sure that there's nothing like inappropriate, and there is some stuff that I'll just have to skip over, but we'll get to it in more appropriate detail later. So first of all, this is the man. Gosh darn it, this is the man right here. It says here that he was born in Chicago, Illinois. So this is an American Pope. I'm sure you've heard that at this point. So he's from Illinois, and he grew up in Illinois, and then he moved to Peru, and then went back to Illinois, and then back to Peru. So he, okay, let me actually, early life, there we go. So yeah, he was born in 1955. Gosh darn it, what's going on with this? He was born in 1955. which means that he's 69 years old right now. Um, and he was born in Chicago, Illinois, like we've said for like the fifth time now. His parents are of Italian and French descent, and it, it's weird. He has a lot of different. He's kind of like me. He's just like me for real. Just a bunch of different blood from all over the world. Miscegenation king, and you have like five different races all mixed together, and it makes you feel invincible because no one can tell you anything. No one has a race a specific insult against you because you are all of the races. Let me move this over here. Okay, let me read chat. So, um, Pierce, I saw that in the Philippines thread that he visited Cebu when he was a young priest, honorary Pinoy. Yeah, that's crazy. I guess we got a Pinoy Pope after all. I was really jokingly pushing Tagla. You might have seen a couple of tweets of mine to that effect. Uh, maybe if you're in the Discord too, you saw it. Let's see. Remix says, "I'm excited to see what he will do and what he will focus on addressing. Oh, what he will focus on addressing through the years to come. I'm excited too. This is totally like this is a blank slate. He could do whatever. He has like no seemingly no set trajectory. And hopefully that trajectory will become a little more clear and revealed as time goes on. So, he was raised in Dalton, Illinois. So he's still living in Illinois, which is like Dalton is near Chicago. It says right here. And he completed high school in St. Augustine Seminary High School. So like this is a man who is, of course, I saw your Stagel stand. So this is a man who sort of grew up in the Catholic faith, right? Presumably, it doesn't say here, but presumably his parents were Catholic, because I don't see like he serves as an altar boy at Saint Mary of the Assumption. Like who's taking it there? It's seemingly his parents. So this is a man who grows up Catholic, right? And then he goes to a Catholic high school, and he does great. So like, gosh darn it, this is like a very intelligent man. I want to stop trying to highlight stuff because that's what gets me in trouble. Skipping forward a little bit. Actually, he practiced speech and debate in high school as well. So that's something else. He got a bachelor's in science for math. He got a degree in math. That was his bachelor's, and then he gets a master's in Chicago. Still, by the way, he gets a master's in divinity, and then he studies canon law, and becomes a doctor of canon law, studying in Rome. So this is a man who knows his stuff, right? He knows his science because he's got that math degree. He knows his theology because he's got that Master of Divinity, and then and then he knows his canon law, which, as the chief administrator or legislator of the church, is kind of important. He also, okay, get this. I didn't know this. I knew that he spoke English. I knew that he spoke Spanish. I knew that he spoke Italian, and I knew that he could read Latin. I didn't know he spoke French and Portuguese and could read German as well. This man is a genius. We got a genius for a pope. So he finishes high school, right? And then he goes and joins the Augustinians. And he says his vows in 78, so like a year after joining, which is pretty standard. And then his solemn vows 3 years later, which again, pretty standard. And then, okay, so he's ordained in 1982 as an Augustinian friar. I think they're friars. And then, okay, so he works as a physics and math teacher. So like, here we go. He has experience teaching. This is very important. Yo, what up, Fax? What up? Yeah, no, we'll get him next time. We'll get him next time though. It's all good, bro. So anyway, I'm gonna start skipping forward here. So he starts teaching in the Augustinian seminary in Trujillo, which is, you're gonna tell me where it is? Oh, it's Peru. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so he joins the Augustinian mission in Peru in 1985. So he starts out in Chicago, Illinois, and then he's ordained in Rome, and then he joins the Augustinian mission in Peru. Okay, for those of you who don't know what a mission is, basically imagine you have a diocese, how did that diocese come to exist, right? It's basically like a precursor to a diocese where you establish, you preach to the people of that territory, and then you establish some sort of church, like a mission church, so that you can tend to your flock there, right? But it's not like part of, like, necessarily part of any diocese. It might become part of a diocese later, but it can be sort of its own thing. So he joins the Augustinian mission in Peru. So he goes to Peru, and he does all sorts of things, teaching canon law, which again, very important. Let's see. And then he was elected provincial, which is basically like president of the Augustinians, right? This is like Pope Augustinian. This is the guy who handles things. So I'm gonna skip over this because we're gonna get to it later, I promise. So long as my power doesn't cut out. But we're gonna get to the allegations and everything later. So he's then named in 2014 Bishop of Chiclayo, which is in Peru. And we're gonna skip ahead a little bit. So he's made Bishop of Peru, and then he's named prefect for the dicastery of bishops, right? Which is basically like the body of the church, the governing authority of the church, as it pertains to like who will and will not become a bishop. And that's about it for his time. So, yeah, wait, he was here. He was in Puerto Rico. Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know. Dude, you see, this is why I'm so excited. Dude, the Pope, the new Pope, the man who just became Pope today was in Puerto Rico. That's where I live. I live in Puerto Rico. I don't live in Aguadilla. I don't live in Aguadilla, but like, I don't want to live in Aguadilla. But he, oh my goodness. That's incredible. That was just 2 years ago. That's crazy. And of course, as you know, today he was chosen as Pope, and he took the name Leo the 14th, which is of course, in honor of Leo the 13th, which is why people have such high expectations of him. Now, that's it for his life, right? And we can get into his views, but this is Wikipedia. This is where I stopped trusting them. And we're gonna get to like a few criticisms, right? I saw a few criticisms about him on Twitter, right? But first, he's a few things that we love, okay? So he has several quotes. Now, here's something I don't like. I don't like it when we attribute quotes to popes before they were pope. As in, like, so for example, like Cardinal Ratzinger, who became Benedict the 16th, like we have a clear sort of distinction between his writings and his sayings and whatever before he became pope and after he became pope. And I don't like it when those two things get messed up, because it sort of paints a bad timeline for when these things were said. Because he could have said this quote, for example, yesterday, or he could have said it today, or he could have said it 13 years ago, which is actually more likely the case. Listen, let me read the chat. We Pinoys will continue to love Cardinal Tagle. Yeah. Imagine all the people. No, I'm kidding. I'm trolling. It's just too funny. I can't. I had to do it one more time before it all ends. This was really funny. So let's see. We got, Pax, what do you got? I think it is going to be more difficult for the media to twist his words the way that they twisted Francis's words. Oh, okay. It's going to be more difficult for the media to twist his words. The way that they twisted Francis's words was absolutely disgusting. And yeah, and I'm going to get to that, actually. Thank you for bringing that up. That reminds me that I wanted to get to that. So, take, for example, this, right? This Pope, this quote, appears to be part of a series of quotes, as you can see here, that are somewhat old, but that hopefully still represent what he believes. I don't know that a man could go from believing this to not believing this and then still be elected Pope by 2/3 of the cardinals. And the quote is this: "The apostolic tradition is very clear, especially with regard to the question of the possibility or not of the ordination of women to the priesthood." Here's another banger. "The promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist." And then one more. "Western culture often seeks to promote sympathy for beliefs and practices that contradict the gospel. For example, the homo lifestyle, and alternative families made up of same-sex partners and their adopted children. No, bro, John Lennon. It's too funny. It's too funny. So, yeah, we got Pope Respecter. Love you, Pope Respecter. You're awesome. Okay. This next bit, I need to be 100% crystal clear. I do not want there to be any misunderstandings because none of us want drama. None of us want issues. So I'm going to go over with the intent of just sort of furthering a productive conversation and just dialoguing about these things, seeing if we can't look at them in a more helpful, through a more helpful framework. So with that intent in mind, I'm gonna just look over two tweets from other fellow content creators in the Christian space, and these would be two Christian VTubers. The first one would be Celeste, who's one of like the bigger ones out there. Uh, and I've interacted with Celeste. She's awesome. Same thing with Usagi. I love Usagi. Her profile is so wildly chaotic. I follow both of them. Like and in Celeste's case, we're mutuals. And again, I just want to address the concerns and hopefully put their minds at ease and try to build bridges, as Pope Leo the 14th said in his opening address. So the first one that I want to address is this one from Celeste, because I think this is sort of fairly easy to address, and that is, she asked, so is the new Pope more liberal than Francis? I hear he's a centrist. Regardless, hoping that Christian leaders across the globe can continue to stand for Christ, and that they don't allow the culture to influence us more. Christianity is not liberal. And I totally agree. I 100% agree, Celeste. Christianity is not liberal. But as you've seen in your comments, Christianity is also not quite conservative. And this is where this quote that I bookmarked from Michael Knowles is actually very helpful in understanding this, right? Which is, this is the part of the paradigm that non-Catholics sometimes miss. The left-right political paradigm does not neatly map onto onto an institution that predates it by 1800 years. Like the most liberal Catholic prelate is still substantially to the right of most conservative Republicans on most issues. And I would say the same thing of popes. Pope Leo the 14th could be more liberal than Francis, quote unquote. He would still be almost definitely the most conservative world leader out there. Not even joking. If there is anyone who is conservative in Christianity, it is the Pope. Christianity is in accordance with the Lord's divine law. So true, remix. And so when we ask the question, like, is the new Pope more liberal than Francis? I don't, and you say, like, I hear he's a centrist. I just don't think that that's the most helpful framework. I think we can look at it through a more beneficial framework that helps us navigate these waters a little more clearly and with a lot more balance, so that we don't, tip and fall over and drown at sea. So, for starters, if you really want to get to the Pope's politics, here they are. Credit to Charlie Kirk and the AF Twitter account, because they both sort of posted this stuff. Actually, no, did AF post this? I forgot. Anyway, Charlie Kirk posted this. And basically, they looked into Cardinal Robert Prevost, and here's what they found, right? He's a registered Republican. He's a registered Republican. What does that mean? It means you're going to see a lot of things that he posted, especially on Twitter, such as how he criticizes JD Vance for invoking, Ordo Amoris. He criticizes the Trump administration, especially as it pertains to immigrants, and he did so also in 2016. Guess what? This man is a registered Republican. What does this mean? It means he probably voted for Trump. It means that when he's criticizing Trump, he's criticizing him as a candidate that he voted for, who is acting out of line with what he voted for him to do, as he perceives it. He's not voting, he's not attacking Trump as a Democrat. Look at this. Registered Republican, 1998 all the way through 2024. And you're gonna see that he didn't vote on some. That's because he wasn't. He traveled again between Chicago and Peru. Part of the reason why we even went through that biography is to sort of establish that. Look at this. Look at this. He's a registered Republican. Obviously, like he wasn't in America all these years, right? And then let's see. Oh, hold on. Let me. Chat is going surprisingly fast, which I love. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome. Okay, so you can't fit Christianity in a spectrum that was invented during the French Revolution, right? And that's the point that Michael was making when he says 1800 years. He's referring to the fact that the church is around 1800 years older than the left-right framework developed as a result of the French Revolution. And so because of that, it, just like how God pre-exists us, therefore God can't be contained by us. God pre-exists the material, therefore he can't be contained by the material. So too, the church pre-exists the left-right divide, and so it can't be neatly mapped onto the left-right divide. Oh, sorry, the left-right divide cannot be neatly mapped onto church politics. It's very, very unhelpful. And really, all you're gonna do is just, you're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna get frustrated because at some point you're gonna stop wanting to think, because everything's too complicated for your framework to like adapt to. And so you have to keep having to nuance everything because you don't have enough like specific terms to go around. And eventually you just get tired and you're like, you know what? Screw it. The guy's a liberal. I'm done. I'm done looking into this. The guy's a liberal. And then I'm gonna look at everything he posts from a liberal perspective. And once again, I'm not saying that anyone that I'm mentioning in this stream is doing that. But that's something to watch out for. I think it's important to watch out for that. Judith said, Knowles also said today that the church is monarchy, not. I'm assuming you meant democracy, and that's also true. It seems from what everybody's saying that this pope is actually going to be the first American monarch. That is to say, the first monarch to be an American citizen. That's awesome. That's an awesome thing. You have a monarch who was born an American citizen for the first time in history. That's awesome. But also, it's a monarchy. And so when the church acts, it's not acting with regard to political interests that they might vie for your vote. It doesn't have like these lobbying groups in order to bribe or persuade politicians to vote X or Y, to vote X position or Y position. It doesn't have any of that because it's a monarchy. More than that, it's a theocratic monarchy. So you're not even chosen by like what you would call maybe democratic institutions, kind of like in America with the Electoral College. And then Remix said, he is. I thought he would be an independent at most. That's very surprising even for me. Yeah, well, there you have it, man. I don't know what else to tell you. So you can see here, ideology general conservative, partisanship overall, strong Republican. He does not vote Democrat. Peck says, I wonder, would Pope Leo the 16th, I'm assuming you just wrote that backwards. Would Pope Leo XIV be detrimental to the eventual mass conversion of the United States to Catholicism? If so, that would be epic. Unseen since the time of Rome. Okay, so I think actually, if Pope Leo, I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to saying that. If Pope Leo becomes a positive influence on the life of the average American, he's present in their lives, he's present in their discourse, and he's a positive influence to them, I think we could be looking at one of the most important. We could be looking at adding to American history's most important and influential figures a Catholic pope. That's insane, because that means that people are going to want to emulate him just as much as they want to emulate, I don't know, who do we even? George Washington, I guess. And that you may say that that's a stretch. And you know what? Yeah, it takes a lot of work and effort, and it might be the case that the way that the Pope decides to handle his papacy is not in line with that outcome. So be it. But it is a possibility, and it's a really interesting possibility that I hope to see flourish. So we've gotten the Pope's actual straight up politics out of the way, right? So if you're going to ask the question like straight up, like, is the new Pope more liberal than Francis? No, they're about the same because they're both very, very conservative. And if you want a look at their voting record, we've shown it to you. He is a strong Republican, ideological leaning conservative. And so I just responded to her like, no, he's not a liberal. I would not worry. So there's that. I think it's more helpful to consider that the church isn't trying to do politics. It's trying to do faith and morality. Why? Well, because our faith compels us to act morally. It compels us to transform the lives of others so that others also act morally. And that means sometimes setting up political systems that benefit morality and punish immorality. And so that's where the church gets involved in politics. And I'm sure you know all of that, Celeste. That's not why I'm saying this. I just sort of wanted to lay that foundation. You should probably swap to a serious face. I'm still into this whole thing. So, having understood that, I think a better way to look at the church is, as Pope Francis put it, a field hospital. In the field hospital, you're not really concerned about like who is injured from which side. You pick up the injured and you ask the, heal first, ask questions later, right? However, we're looking at the Pope. And so that means that competency does matter, and ideology can affect competency. However, what you find with the Pope is that by necessity he is bound to hold to the doctrines and dogmas of the Catholic faith, and this involves things such as no recognition of homosexual unions as anything other than abominations. They are sinful lifestyles, and even Pope Francis is like I would argue his most controversial document, Fiducia Supplicans, actively affirms this reality, that it is immoral and that it goes contrary to God's design. Another thing would be, like homosexuals can't adopt children. That's also necessarily involved. Women not being able to enter the priesthood. I believe that John Paul II was the one that dogmatically defined that. Straight up said, the church does not have the authority. Christ did not give the church the authority to ordain women. That wasn't part of his plan. And so when you're looking at the church, when you're looking at the Pope, I think a better question to ask is the Pope liberal? And more, does the Pope conform to the church's traditional values? And if that's the question you're asking, I would strongly answer yes. All right, let me read chat. So even if he was registered as a Republican but still criticizing Trump and Vance, is a great thing because he doesn't have a bias and is opting to be more critical thinking and will influence positively. This is good and will be great, and I agree with your analysis as of the moment you started it and explaining. You can say I'm yapping. That's fine. You don't have to sugarcoat it. So, no, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Like I said earlier, this is a case of like somebody voted for a presidential candidate, and they are actively they are not attacking them, but rather they are criticizing them as a voter, as somebody who said, "Hey, I voted for you. I would strongly advise that you take my concerns into consideration." And maybe it's not always worded like that, and we could word it better, but that's a prudential question, not a matter of ideology. Further, it seems that when he corrected J.D. Vance in particular on like Ordo Amoris, that is the Order of Love, that he was just addressing the teaching itself. So this is something that I've heard tossed around, and I can't confirm or deny this, but I think it's worth mentioning, at least, to sort of have it in the back of your mind when you're looking at this stuff, is that apparently what I've been hearing is that when he criticizes Trump and Vance, he's actually very specific. He's not like attacking their character or anything. He's just saying like, hey, this part of your policy or this focus of your policy is bad, or this thing that you said is incorrect, that sort of thing. Let's see. Chat says, I'm glad that Pope Leo the 14th is acknowledging and is addressing that homosexuality isn't just and is inherently abominable. So true, King. Pax says, the media is already criticizing Leo the 14th for his anti-LGBTQ views, lol. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So, like, here's the thing, right? This is exactly like what G.K. Chesterton, how did I butcher that name so poorly? This is exactly the sort of case that G.K. Chesterton provides for Christianity. The idea that it gets attacked by extremes on both sides for seemingly contradictory reasons. You have, like, for example, these whiny neo-pagans, and they'll say that Christianity was this horrible, terrible, oppressive religion. But then you look at somebody like Nietzsche, and he says, actually, Christianity is a slave man's religion, incapable of doing anything except asking God to do everything for him. I'm exaggerating these perspectives, of course, but in order to draw out the contrast between these two conflicting and contradictory criticisms of Christianity, and I think the same thing applies to our new Holy Father. People attacking him from both sides. Oh, he supports the gays. No, he actually doesn't support the gays, and they're both like fighting each other over who the Pope hates more. In reality, he hates no one, but oh man, it's terrible. So that's hopefully that's a sort of good. I hope I've helped understand. I'm addressing this to Celeste. I hope that somewhere in my admittedly disconnected and somewhat incoherent ramblings, I was able to provide at least somewhat of a framework by which we can better view the church and better view uh, the papacy, and especially the Pope's personal stances, such that we don't look at the man, we look at the office. We look at Peter, not Leo the 14th. At the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Leo the 14th could be an incredible guy, but what we're looking for is somebody to fill the role of Peter in the church, to guard it while Christ is in heaven at the right hand of the Father. And while Christ heads the church from heaven, he entrusted the keys to Peter on earth, and that's important. And we don't want to lose sight of that by instead focusing on contemporary politics. Look, the Pope is going to disagree with Trump on a lot of things. The Pope is going to disagree with J.D. Vance on a lot of things, and especially J.D. Vance. When it comes to doctrine, he should take correction because this is his overseer, right? Um, this is his bishop. He's the bishop of the Universal Church, and that J.D. Vance is part of the Universal Church. What is this? Anti-elitist action. Let it be known that on this day I posted in the Pierce chat. That's crazy. That's crazy. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, Celeste. Let me actually drink this chalky milk. I poured it. It's still all in the mug. Give me like a minute. Let me drink my chalky milk. You guys can ask questions in the chat if you want. Oh, that's some good chalky milk. Let me show you guys this picture I found. I think I pinned it. Let me find it. Save image. Yes. I think you guys are gonna like this. Pax, I'll answer your question in a second. I just really want to show this off. It's just so peak. Look at this. I love it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Pax asks a quick question: is Pope Leo the 14th against harsh immigration policies, or the fact that immigrants are treated inhumanely? Very much so. And he would say this also for the cartels that are smuggling them in. This is not a zero-sum game. He is opposed to inhuman treatment of people, especially the poor, because they are the most vulnerable and easy to take advantage of, and he opposes it in all its forms. This is the same thing with Pope Francis, and you could ask the same thing of John Paul II, Paul VI, John the 23rd, Pius X. They would all tell you the same thing. And so perhaps perhaps the popes go a little further than we might like in criticizing immigration policy. But I think it's also not quite fair to ask them to have as many facts on the ground as your terminally online Twitter friends about like American immigration policy. Certainly with his current pontiff, given that he is a citizen of the United States, there should be higher expectations for him to know the current state of immigration in America. But then again, he was also living in Peru and then Rome, so who knows? let's see what else we got. Remix said, I'm glad to see I'm glad to see, like you said before, that this will be in a sense a return to form for the church in addressing these worldly problems. All right. Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful. I really am. I'm hopeful that this will just sort of be like, okay, we had the sort of risky, but ultimately, I would argue, very spiritually beneficial papacy of Pope Francis. And we need to sort of like we had that, and we know what that like what that is like now. We've experienced it. Now it's time to go back to sort of your boring old, standard papacy, Bishop of Rome doing things in Rome, and we're doing our own thing over here. But who knows? Maybe he might be a globe-trotting pope. Maybe he might take after Francis in more ways than we think. Certainly did praise him a lot in his speech, and that was something that almost brought a tear to my eye. I was too excited to shed tears, but I was, yeah, it was great. Uh, what do you mean to specify the magisterium part? I mean, I guess, yeah, it would be nice if he were to write about sort of contemporary issues facing the church, things like artificial intelligence, which, the Vatican has touched on before. I actually did a stream reading part of that document, which you can check out in the channel. But the Vatican has touched on that. It's touched on um uh it's touched on the question of whether or not um divorced and remarried people should be living in perfect continence um before receiving the Eucharist. Now that one's not so much the magisterium as a private note on Pope Francis's part. He just kind of put that in a footnote. I mean, people took it way out of seriously. It's a footnote, gang. It's in the name. You're supposed to ignore it. It's not that big a deal. But in any case, um, I we have seen these sort of contemporary issues being explored. What do we do about homosexuals? What do we do about gender ideology? What do we do about AI? What do we do about all these things that are sort of threatening the human spirit and the human soul, and ultimately salvation for all, because it stands in the way in the gospel. And I think with this Pope, we have a good shot of getting answers and clarity, and I'm very hopeful for that. So we got a question here. As we are no longer in Sedevacantis, I'm sorry, as we are no longer in Sedevacante, does that mean that Carlo Acutis' beatification will be soon, or will it be a long wait? My friend had him as his confirmation saint this Easter and was looking forward to it. So, short answer, I don't know. Long answer, I think it's reasonable to expect that it won't be postponed for terribly long. Maybe the Pope has other sort of more pressing concerns to take care of as he enters his period of ruling over the church. But I don't think it'll be postponed more than a year. It might even just be a handful of months. It's really tough to say. I don't think that it'll be like outright canceled or like postponed for years. I just don't think that's very likely, especially again because like this is a pope who respects Pope Francis, and this is one of the last things that Pope Francis really had like concretely on the agenda. So while I would love to see the canonization, I think that's what you actually meant. Uh, though I would like to see the canonization of Carlo Acutis. Um, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. That's unfortunate. So, will Pope Leo the 14th ease up on Latin Mass? Um, again, short answer, I don't know. Long answer, probably. Probably. He seems to be more favorable to it. He definitely seems to be a lot more quote unquote trad compared to Pope Francis. We see that especially like on day one, the vestment that he chose, looking very much like Pope Benedict XVI when he first appeared on the balcony. And so it would appear that he's a little more sensible. Not sensible. That's the wrong term. More sensitive to the liturgical sensibilities of those who prefer the Roman Missal of 62. Um, we'll have to wait and see. But that's a really interesting question that I really hope we get an answer to sometime soon. This might be the Pope to finally see the canonization of Blessed Fulton Sheen to be followed through. I hope so, man. I hope so. I really do hope so. I hope that's not like put off indefinitely, because he's such a great preacher, man. It's like it would suck if it was like, I don't know. Keep praying for it. Keep praying for it. But let's get back to the thing. We have more things to worry about. That was very long for a chalky milk break. All right, let's get rid of this picture. We've had our fun. So, do I have to actually delete it? Okay. Delete it. Yes. Okay. So, the next concern that's going to need to be addressed, and this is the one that see you, Judith. The next concern that we want to see addressed, or that we're going to see addressed here in the stream, with hopefully enough detail to satisfy Usagi, is this question about the Pope. And what do I mean? Well, because it's not just the initial question. She has a follow-up comment to explain why she's concerned. So she's asking, what are your guys' opinions on the new Pope? And that's, pretty harmless. But then she asks this question, which is certainly a lot more serious, and we should take a lot more seriously when considering how to answer it. And she shows this, right? She says that this, not gonna lie, has me nervous, and it's this. It says here in 1999, he was elected provincial prior of the Midwest Augustinians. A year into the role, he permitted a priest who abused minors to live in a Chicago rectory half a block from a Catholic school at the archdiocese's request. And that's very concerning if true. But we're going to see that that's not quite the full story. Now, for context, Usagi is, again, I love Usagi. She's awesome. Okay, she's awesome. I don't want to... this is not to start drama. This is just hopefully to answer her question and address her concerns. Usagi is she rails very hard against the idea of child abuse, as we all should, but she's very proactive in that sense, constantly some would say picking fights over it, but I wouldn't necessarily use such antagonistic terms. She's definitely a firebrand in this regard, and I think that's a good thing, in fact. And so what I want to do, hopefully, is provide a little more clarity and hopefully some comfort around the situation. So we can read over here. This is from the College of Cardinals report on Cardinal Prevost, now Leo the 14th. And we're gonna skip down here because this is the actual cases. Let me pull this a little further for me. Let me make sure you guys can see it too. Oh, that's a phone number. That's weird. I'm trying to find if I can. Yeah, I don't know why this is happening. Anyway, so I'm just gonna read it to you in full detail. So it says here, Prevost, which is again Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, now Leo the 14th, has faced some controversy regarding clerical abuse, although he has been defended in both instances. So right off the bat, it tells you that there have been 2 instances that he's been accused of. The Cardinals' supporters stress his innocence and say that the cases have been inaccurately and unfairly reported in the media. This is the first thing that I want to raise to Usagi's concern. And that is not to deny that anything happened, but rather to at least open the possibility for the fact that maybe the media lies a lot. I could actually pull up probably like another post from Usagi very recently. Right. You don't despise the actions of journalists nearly enough. This is a very common sentiment. We get it from a lot of people. It's not just her. And it's very common sentiment. Like journalists suck. Journalists, some of them at least, are actually kind of evil. They're just not very good people. And what this means is that a lot of the time they lie. A lot of the time they misrepresent. The media is full of yellow page, backstabbing traitors and liars and deceivers. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we acknowledge first that journalists can not just be wrong, but can be outright lying, or at the very least manipulating the optics of a situation to make it look worse than it is. Having said that, it still bears repeating, and it is still a priority to figure out whether or not the case is actually true or not, right? So we have that initial sort of healthy, I would say, like a healthy suspicion of journalists, to sort of at least dispel any initial like buying anything wholesale that they say or that they leave out. But then we actually have to get to the bottom of it. So going back over here to the story, it says the first case involving his handling of abuse of an abuse case during his time as provincial of the Augustinian province of Chicago, which was, as you see here, 99 to 2001, was when a priest was convicted of abuse of minors, was allowed to stay at an Augustinian priory near an elementary school and continue functions as a priest until later removed and then laicized in 2012. However, Prevost is said to have never authorized that particular situation. The priest was not an Augustinian, and it took place before the Dallas Charter. What is the Dallas Charter? Let's see if bringing this up actually tells you what the Dallas Charter is. Oh, good. It actually provides you like a little pithy explanation. Here's what it is. The Dallas Charter, for those of you who don't know, it is the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People, more commonly known as the Dallas Charter, is a comprehensive set of procedures originally established by the USCCB in June 2002. So you see here, June 2002. So it's been around for a while. For addressing allegations of sexual... I was trying to avoid using that word. For addressing allegations of abuse of minors by Catholic clergy. The charter also includes guidelines for reconciliation, healing, accountability, and prevention of future acts of abuse. And it was revised in 2005, 2011, 2018. The was because I can't speak, by the way. Not because I'm disgusted by the Dallas Charter. That would be absurd. So, I'm going to touch on the Dallas Charter a little more. So just going to keep reading here. It says that the Dallas Charter actively addresses creating a safe environment for children and young people, healing and reconciliation of victims and survivors, ensuring prompt and effective responses to allegations, cooperating with civil authorities, so the cops, and holding offenders accountable, as well as instituting a process of accountability for the future to ensure instances of allegations are dealt with swiftly and effectively, assisted by the Secretariat of Child and Youth Protection and the National Review Board. What is this? What are we yapping about? What does any of that mean? What it means is that the Dallas Charter essentially puts into place rules and procedures by which to handle and deal with and prevent cases of child abuse of indecent nature. I'm trying to be tactful with my language here. And here's actually one example. I believe it is one of the rules says that a cleric is not allowed to be alone in a room with a child unless there is another non-cleric adult present with them, right? Basic little procedures like those, but a bunch of them. Another one that you actually see a lot if you're in my side of the internet, which is you're not allowed as a cleric to direct message young people or to be in secluded group hangout group chats with underage people. So if the person is under the age of 18, you can't directly message them, whether you're a cleric or you're in a religious community or you know you're like a novice, what have you. If you're in a religious community or you're living the religious life or you're a cleric of any sort, deacon, priest, bishop, you're not allowed to DM minors. And that those basics and standard processes, but also some more complex processes and preventative measures help to ensure the safety of children so that no crisis like the abuse crisis ever happens again. Let's see. Random Vio says, I have known quite a few journalists and I've heard them say that pushing their agenda is more important than the truth. They are selling their view, not facts. They're also selling what clicks. Well, they're also selling what gets in your head and makes you click. Because that's what they want. They want your clicks. They don't want your opinions. They don't want you to be informed or edified. They want your clicks. They want you to share. They want you to angrily quote tweet the article so that people go like, wait, what is this? And then they check it out and they click. It's all manipulative. It's all abuse. That's why nobody trusts journalists anymore, right? But again, establishing suspicion of journalism is not enough. You actually have to address these situations. And so the Dallas Charter is part of a concerted effort by the Catholic Church and especially Catholic lay people, so people who are not clerics, to deal with this sort of situation and keep clerics away from causing harm to children and young people, as well as to protect. As well as to hold them accountable. So that's the Dallas Charter. Why does that? Why does any of that matter? Well, it matters because Prevost is arguing that all of this took place before the Dallas Charter. I'm sorry, not Prevost. Like his defenders, right? His defenders argue that this took place before the Dallas Charter. So a lot of the protections that are in place now to stop that rogue cleric, that abusive cleric, they were not in place. They were not yet in place when this case happened, right? Which is 1999 to 2001. As we read here, the Dallas Charter was instituted in June 2002. Why does this matter? Well, it means because he doesn't really have a whole lot of, he doesn't have a network of people who are paying attention to the stuff, because that doesn't exist yet. He doesn't have the processes to deal with this stuff. Even if he did find out, the most he could do is just kick him out. But as he says here, he never authorized the situation, right? Could he be that he was aware of it? It could be, but the fact is you don't really know. And given how big, like, you need to understand, this is basically like running your own country, or maybe a better analogy would be like your own city, right? Being a provincial is basically being a mayor. You have to deal with the well-being and the management of all of these different people. If one guy slips through the cracks, it's a tragedy, but it does not represent a systemic failure. If many people slip through the cracks, then definitely that represents a systemic failure. Why am I bringing this up? Why am I? Because it sounds like I'm making excuses, and I don't think so. I think we need to look at things charitably and be like, okay, if somebody breaks into your house in your town of, in your city of, like, I don't know, 200,000 people, okay, like, dude, how many Augustinians? There are 2,800 Augustinians. Okay, so maybe not a city, maybe a town, right? But like one guy breaks into somebody's house. Are you at fault for that as the mayor of that town? I wouldn't say so. Now, if you're aware of that, you should handle it, but I wouldn't say that like it's necessary. It's a necessary conclusion to be drawn that like you would be aware of it in the first place. And so it says here also that he is said to never have authorized it. So he is not the one moving clerics around. That's important. Then there's a more recent allegation. Give me a second. I need to drink a lot of water after that. Let's see. Remix Ridge, he says, this is very interesting how people can catch things out of context and can affect the perception of one person for so many people. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it says here, more recently, questions were raised about Prevost's knowledge and handling of abuse allegations in his former diocese of Chiclayo. 2 priests were accused of touching 3 young girls, with the allegations surfacing in April 2022 during Prevost's tenure as bishop. The case has been a source of frustration for local Catholics due to its slow progress and unclear resolution. Just want to say that as a certified St. Augustine fanboy, I won big today by getting an August. That's so true. When he said, "I am a son of Augustine," oh, chills, goosebumps, everything. Remix Rich. So he only authorized kicking him out. No, at that point he was no longer in charge. He was no longer the prior. He was doing other stuff. He was in a different position. So let's see, where was I at? Gosh darn it. Oh, okay, yeah. So some accusers have claimed that Prevost failed to properly investigate the allegations and covered up for the accused priest. But the diocese has firmly denied this, stating that Prevost followed proper procedures. They stated that Prevost personally received and attended to the victims and reportedly opened an initial canonical investigation. He also encouraged the victims to take the case to the civil authorities. Like, dude, what does it mean? He's telling them to do everything they can. He's encouraging them. He's doing everything that he can on his end, right? Like, he's not doing nothing. He launches an investigation. He like personally receives and attends to the victims, so they talk to each other, and he hears them out, and he hears their case, and he hears their pleas, and he tends to them. And then he also encourages them to take this to the cops, so that the cops can also help in bringing this person to justice. In July 2022, Prevost sent the results of the investigation to the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. In other words, he launches the canonical investigation, and then he sends the results of that investigation to the DDF. I don't know about you, but that seems to me like he's doing everything he can. And he sends these documents for these results for review. And then it says his supporters stress that he has the documents from the DDF and that he has documents from the DDF and the papal nunciature in Peru, which also indicate that he was not only attentive to the presumed victims, but that he did all required in church law in following procedures set out for these cases, which is all, by the way, after the Dallas Charter. So he's following all of the necessary processes. He's doing all that he can. Right? Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's rather interesting that this surfaced during the meetings right before the conclave. That in May 2025, I heard that was 4 days ago, so that would be May 4th, 2025. Allegations emerged that the diocese paid $150,000 to the three girls to silence them. I'm sorry. This is not to. I don't know. Do you guys remember this case? Do you guys remember this case? Christine Blasey Ford. No? Maybe this rings a bell. Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Let's see. On CDD, you guys should make a fact. Maybe we'll make an FAQ. I don't know if you guys have heard of this case, the Brett Kavanaugh case. Basically, this guy was he was going through the process to be made into a Supreme Court justice, right? Nomination to the Supreme Court. So, oh, come on. Here we go. So he was oh my goodness. Okay, so in July of 2018, right, this guy's name is on a short list for nominees for the Supreme Court. And then all of a sudden, this woman, who, by the way, her entire story turned out to be entirely fabricated, just so happens to accuse the guy in the same month that he is set to be evaluated for Supreme Court justice. That same month, this woman, who he has never talked to before, wrote to Senator Dianne Feinstein to accuse Kavanaugh of indecent assault. You can read the word for yourself, gang. I don't need to say it out loud. And I'm sorry if this sounds victim blaming. I really don't mean it to be, but how can you tell me that this right here doesn't sound exactly like that? That all of a sudden this guy, and granted, he wasn't really being like considered like a major candidate, but it just seems really out of place that the very like 4 days before he's made Pope, 4 days before he's made Pope, 2 days before the conclave begins, that's all of a sudden when they bring these new allegations against him. I find it hard to believe. I really do. So what is the moral of the story? What is the sort of final answer that I would give to Usagi, whose inquiry is what caused me to go down this rabbit hole? I would say this: I appreciate your concern. I stand with you in your concern. There are indeed cases that have occurred where children have been horribly, horribly harmed by shepherds who have gone astray, who have decided to turn on their own sheep instead of guide them. And those cases are undeniably tragic. and one hopes and prays that justice will be served against those who have done them wrong, and that these children, some of them now adults, would find healing, and especially healing in the loving arms of our Lord Jesus Christ. However, I think it may be harmful to dialogue and to a fair assessment of an individual to take what appear to be pretty shaky allegations all that seriously. Or not maybe seriously, but as concretely as we sometimes do. I think a better approach would be to wait for the evidence to come out, to let these things be resolved in court, um, or, whatever other legal proceedings take place. And if the Pope has to be extradited back to Peru to face charges, then I mean, so be it, right? We've had evil popes before, but I don't think that it's fair to this pope, especially right at the beginning of his papacy, um, to put these allegations on him when it appears that he has done everything in his power to deal with these situations as best he could. And so, to to content creators whom again I love and appreciate, like Celeste and like Usagi, um, I would just ask that you have a little charity towards the new pope, that you would give Pope Leo a chance to prove himself as a Christian worthy of your respect, as a staunch defender of the faith against all of the evils of our modern world. We entrust Peter with our souls in a sense, in that we trust that he's going to guide us closer to the Lord Jesus Christ, and in Christ's stead, not because Christ isn't willing to, but because Christ has entrusted this mission to him: feed my sheep, tend my sheep, feed my lambs. We entrust ourselves to Peter to guard us and to protect us. And I think that in order to be able to do that, and I know that you're, not Catholic, and maybe you're thinking that this is all a bunch of baloney. Maybe, who knows? Um, but in order to do as I've laid out, it is important to at least start with an open mind, give the Pope the benefit of the doubt, and trust that he wasn't made Pope for no reason. So that's what I would ask. And that about does it for the Twitter section of this. Oh, also, look at this. Andres did an amazing job with this. Check this out, dude. I love this. This is wonderful. We got Luce and Larry. Wonderful. Anywho, let me swap to just chatting. So, let me get rid of that. Let me read the chat. So, let's see. On CDD, you guys should make an FAQ. Yeah, so we might make an FAQ. It depends on how big the lies and accusations get, how much popesplaining we have to do, and we're just gonna write this out and see whether or not we actually need to take like big definitive action on that on the server. And then Remix Rage says, "This is why I'm very hesitant with headlines, since all the little details are either not paid enough attention to or are outright ignored." And that's very true. That's very true, and it's very concerning when this sort of thing happens. It's very concerning when this sort of talk is spread, and I hope I've done a good job of just sort of navigating these waters and hopefully giving these fellow content creators a different lens by which to view these things. None of this was meant as a criticism of them, or maybe one could say it's like a minor critique. But none of this was meant to criticize like their character or to like denigrate them or to start drama. Like I don't want any of that. All I wanted to do with this is just be able to have this conversation, this dialogue, and I don't know. I hope that it turns out to be at least somewhat productive, and that's my hope. So, uh, how long have I been streaming? I've been going for almost an hour and a half. So I don't know if you guys want to like yap a little bit longer. If you guys have any questions, questions, predictions, anything about this pope, because I'm looking forward to this, to seeing this papacy through. I'm looking forward for this pope to be like the pope that the eventual children grow up with, um, as Pope Francis was for me. I've got like some younger relatives, and Pope Leo, if he lives long enough, God willing, will be to them what Pope Francis was to me. So yeah, I'm really excited, and there's a bit of trepidation in that because for every good thing the Pope might do, there might be some bad things that he does because he's human, and that's okay. And it's not okay for him to just do bad things, but we make mistakes, and that's something we got to live with. And the Pope is no different. And so, as long as the Pope exists, Peter is going to put his foot in his mouth. As long as the Pope exists, Peter is going to make rash decisions that aren't always thought through. As long as the Pope exists, Peter is going to cut off somebody's ear. And that's just how things go, And Pax, I see. Yeah, you think that this is going to be one of the most based popes of all of our times. I mean, hopefully, I hope to see this pope have a great influence on society as a whole to fight against these evil ideologies that plague society and the entertainment industry / world. What I'm hoping to see encouraged from this pope is a revitalization of the art of silence. That is to say, shutting up, shutting out distractions, and being with God in the silence. If there's anything that this cardinal's life tells me, is that this is something that he would appreciate. Another thing that I hope to see is beauty. Pope Francis didn't shun beauty, but he certainly withheld from the sort of more glamorous expressions of beauty that come with being the Pope. And I hope to see that beauty revitalized, reintroduced, because that's something that Augustine would have wanted. He would have wanted to see the church grow increasingly beautiful. And you can think that all these vestments are, pompous and arrogant and what have you. But no, in fact, as Michael Knowles put it, it's a sort of special kind of humility, knowing your place. And your place is as the monarch, reigning in place of Christ as he guides the church from heaven. And that's important. You are the visible head of the church as Pope. You gotta look the part, man. That's what I think, anyway. While Pope Francis certainly had drip at times, he preferred to keep things simple. That has its benefits and its detriments, I think. Pax says, I wonder if he's going to be like the Pope, like Pope Leo the 12th was during the rise of the Industrial Age. Oh, during the Industrial Age, especially with the rise of AI and all that. Okay, I'm hoping, I'm hoping that we get some answer as to what to do with AI. I am tentatively asking for a full document breakdown, like a full document length breakdown of intellectual property and piracy. I'm really, please, Pope Leo, please, I need to know what's happening. Okay, I've got my own framework that I'm working with, but frankly, it can be just as flimsy as any other. Like, I don't have a way of knowing that I am, like, objectively correct in every application of my stance on intellectual property. I've been challenged in ways that really force me to sit down and think and come back to the discussion later because I can't come up with an answer right then and there. And so I would like some answers. I would like for the Pope to give me some answers, guide us into this new age, and really embody, just as Francis did, this role that he has as now the second Pope of the New World. I think that means something. It means more than geography. I think it really means that he's facing the challenges that are affecting this current world, this current generation. Challenges that are wholly and entirely unique and unprecedented, in ever in human history. And we need somebody to guide us through that. And I hope that Pope Leo will be that person. Um, always trusting in God, of course, to guide the church into all truth as he promised, so that the gates of hell would not prevail against it. Are the proprietors right? Yeah, exactly. I need an answer to the piracy question, but I need it to be detailed. I cannot. I'm going to seriously have a difficulty in faith. Okay, if the Pope says piracy is wrong and then he doesn't elaborate. Do you understand how frustrating that would be? Especially knowing the intellectual caliber of this man. Like, we read it. We read his credentials. We know who he is, and we know what he's like. So yeah, we need an answer. I need an answer. The rest of people can go, whatever. Who cares? But I need an answer. Me, I need one. Me, I do. Me, me. um, yeah. Let's do something before we end this off, because I do want to start getting ready for bed. But I want to do something before we end this off. Let me see if I can find some sort of prayer for a new pope. Here, you know what? Let's go with this one from Catholic News Agency. Here. I hope that you'll join me in praying for the Pope. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Let us pray for the Pope. May the Lord preserve him, give him a long life, make him blessed upon the earth, and not hand him over to the power of his enemies. May your hand be upon your holy servant, and upon your Son, whom you have anointed. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Oh, man, thank you guys so much for being here. This was awesome. I am exhausted. I am very happy. I'm very hopeful for this new pope, but I dread all the popesplaining that I'm gonna have to do. I hate that I have to do it day one. I hope that the tide slows down, that this is just like something that happens every time we get a new pope, and it's not just like it could be a constant thing, I know that like Taylor Marshall already started complaining. I saw a little bit of that. I saw more people on the Protestant side of things, just sort of talking about the Pope and in ways that maybe some of them are helpful and others are less than helpful. And then of course a lot of angry secular activists who are really looking forward to Tagle, who by the way would have disappointed them just as much as Prevost has. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful that you guys were here to hang out, to listen, to just sort of, educate ourselves about our new Holy Father. I thank you for being here. I thank you for sticking around. This has been really fun, and I hope to do it again sometime soon. Stay caffeinated. God bless you all, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. Catch Saturday's video, by the way. It is a long project. Don't miss it. Okay, bye. Bye-bye.